Welcome back to Stooge Stream. I'm your host, the Stooge, and this is another episode of Is It Worth Playing? In this episode, we're looking at Rogue Legacy, a multi-platform game released by Cellar Door Games. You can find this on Windows, Linux, OS X, PS3, PS4, Vita, and Xbox One. This was originally released in 2013. Now, what type of game is Rogue Legacy? Well, as you can imagine by the title, yes, it is a dungeon crawler, but it's a dungeon crawler with a difference. Sprinkle in some 16-bit aesthetics, sprinkle in some action platforming, sprinkle in a layered RPG system, then add in a procedurally generated dungeon, and you have Rogue Legacy. But let's do what we always do. Let's pull it apart and put it back together and see, is it worth playing? So, let me explain a little bit about the game first as far as the gameplay works. Once you get past the very quick introduction, which is a tutorial as well and layers out this world and lets you know what's happening and what's going on, you start the game. You choose one of three characters, which you'll get slight variations. So one might be quicker and have more damage, or one might be a tank, one might be the standard, one might be a magic caster, but you choose one of these three characters and you roll off into this dungeon. When you start, it's very basic. You can jump and you can attack, and that is about that. Now, the whole point of the game is you will die. You will die a damn lot. And every time you die, you take the money that you make, you go back to your manor, as in M-A-N-O-R, house, place. You upgrade, so the next generation of warriors, mage, or whatever you choose is more powerful and can survive longer in the dungeon. Then you die again and do it all over again. So this is a family line that you're following, and you play each generation's heroes. There's interesting little things where sometimes some of the heroes may have some defects, like one might have spots in their vision, so there's bits of your screen that are fuzzy, or one might see things upside down, one might see in black and white. There's weird little effects that happen from time to time that are quite cool. The actual gameplay itself is a standard action platformer. You jump, you hack and slash. As you proceed through the game and buy more upgrades, you get more abilities like a double jump, a hover, an air dash, all sorts of other things that you can use to get through this dungeon. There's 5 bosses. So you have 4 bosses within the dungeon itself that you have to find and conquer. When you beat them, you unlock keys, which will open a door at the beginning of the dungeon, which will lead you to the final boss encounter, which is a multi-part boss encounter. Nothing in this game is overly difficult. It's just time consuming. It takes a long time for your characters to get to a point where they are capable of getting through the dungeon. It will take you roughly 12 to 14 hours to finish the first time around, and then you can go straight into a new Game Plus mode with all the current upgrades you have, starting the game again on a much more difficult setting, or you can just start again from scratch and build a new character with different upgrades and different abilities. And there's so many different ways to upgrade the character and so many different progressions and skills to choose and to level, that you can actually build characters in multiple different ways, which is great for replayability. Let's have a quick talk about the sound. The music in the game is simple. I believe there's probably 6 or so tracks, but they work well with the areas that they're in and kind of help the ambience of the game itself. The sound effects, the hacking, the enemies dying, the very, very little voice acting and so forth is all quite pleasant. Nothing is spectacular as far as sound design, but nothing's broken either. And you've probably heard me say this in previous reviews. Hey, if it ain't broke, that's pretty damn good. It works, there's nothing wrong with it, and we can move on. The visual aesthetic, as I spoke about before, is a very 16-bit looking platformer. This would look right at home on, say, the Super Nintendo or a very, very early PlayStation title. In saying that, though, it looks really nice. They've done a lot of great work with the sprites themselves, made a lot of the enemy types look unique. it works really well. And being somebody that grew up in the 8 and 16-bit era, I appreciate seeing games like this, like Shovel Knight and so forth. Just getting a throwback from time to time as far as presentation and gameplay goes doesn't hurt, and this does it really well. Gameplay. The gameplay is really fun. As I said, you develop your character, it's very addictive by nature. Due to the fact that it does have that short one more game, just one more try, I need that one more upgrade type gameplay system to it, you will find yourself just sitting there for hours and hours and hours playing a game that's very much designed to play in short bursts. As I said, it does take around 12 to 14 hours to finish the game the first time around. So even in that, the value proposition is quite good, being that this is a digital game and downloadable. The cost isn't high. It was on sale last month on the PlayStation Network, and it was around $7 Australian, or $8 Australian, which is not a huge investment for a game that's going to give you minimum 12 to 14 hours of gameplay. And then if you come back and play it in New Game Plus mode, many, many more hours, or replay it to build a different character, many, many, many more hours of gameplay. This is a really, really fun game and took me really by surprise. It's Metroidvania, roguelike, platforming style gameplay. Really appeals to all my niches and what I really like in games. And then once you layer in some deep leveling and RPG mechanics, even though on the surface it looks quite simple, when you actually start digging into it and creating your character and customizing him with these upgrades, that's when the game really comes to life. And as I said, it's addictive nature of just one more turn, just one more try, because lives in this game will only last you, to start with, maybe a minute or two, maybe 5 minutes. And then as your character gets better and better and better, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. And then by the end, you're playing runs that last you half an hour. And it's just really cool. If you haven't played this game yet, I really recommend checking it out. It's a lot of fun, very cheap, and again, support indie developers, because you never know when these guys are going to pull out a game that changes everything. No, I'm not talking about No Man's Sky, because that changed nothing. But I really enjoyed this. Cellar Door Games did a great job on making an addictive roguelike, procedurally generated dungeon crawler that means every life and every time you go into that dungeon is a different game. That doesn't happen too often, and it's well worth checking out. I give this one a definitely worth playing. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Like, share, subscribe, and all those cool things. And I'm just going to leave you with a couple of minutes of footage here without me talking over it. Hope you get something out of this. And if you've played the game, comment below. Let me know what you thought of it. I'd love to hear back from you. Adventure, excitement. A Stooge craves not these things. Welcome to the Stooge Revolution!